Auburn picked up a key piece of their class earlier this week, but it's not enough. What's next for Auburn?
You are Locked On Auburn, your daily podcast on the Auburn Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, welcome on into Locked On Auburn, your daily Auburn Tigers podcast. I'm your host, Zach Blackerby, and thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first listen every single day. It's Recruiting Thursday. We're joined by Brian Smith, host of The Portal, Locked On's Recruiting NIL Transfer Portal show. Fantastic. Multiple shows every single day over there. Brian Smith killing it. I want to get your thoughts on the strengths and weaknesses of Auburn's roster later in the show, as well as what could be on the horizon for Auburn and just college football in general. But Adam Balogoun-Ali, we've been talking about him for weeks, the four-star linebacker from South Florida, commits to Auburn earlier in the week. And I think this is an underrated signing because you've been high on this guy. I'm really high on his tape. It seems like in his interviews, he's very specific with what he wants to be. He wants to be the dime linebacker, which means he can play all the snaps that you want him to play if he's able to have that type of role. I compared him to Owen Papo a few, maybe last week when you and I talked about him. I do think there's some similarities there, not from an athleticism standpoint, but from a role and what he could project to be standpoint. But now that Adam is officially part of this class, Brian, your overall assessment of the linebacker?
Well, number one, he's one of the smartest kids in the class, regardless of whether it's Auburn's class or anybody else. It's like he led his team in tackles as a true freshman in high school. Like that's not normal for a South Florida kid.
Yeah, sure.
He figures out where he wants to go, and he's also a kid that's just very driven. He track, football, whatever he's done. He's not your normal teenager. I bet he plays about as many snaps next year as any freshman that Auburn has in 26, and I know a lot of that will be special teams, but he'll find his way onto the field in some capacity. I would bet on it. So I would take those kind of guys every year. I don't know.
Sure.
I'm sure Auburn's happy to have him.
Yeah, it's interesting how Adam Balogoun-Ali is ranked at different places. Like 247 has him as the 20th linebacker in the class. I think On Three's around that. ESPN, somebody said this to me, ESPN has him as their number one linebacker in the class right now. Like what goes into that? Like where is that discrepancy if you had to guess?
ESPN bases their stuff off the Under Armour camps. All the guys that do that, Craig Harbert and all them, I go to all those camps. If they see him live, it's a heck of a lot more likely that they go up. When we go to these camps, all of us as recruiting analysts, we almost completely skip the linebacker versus running back one-on-ones because running backs just annihilate them. He's one of the few kids that can cover. And that's something that's been a very big focal point for not just Auburn, but for any major program. So that he probably covered really well that day that they watched him when he was, I didn't even pay attention to him, to be honest, because we were down watching the linemen go one-on-one at the same time. Yeah. But that's what it is.
Is that maybe why you're higher on him than most of his rankings, because you've seen him at all these camps?
I've seen him at camps, but I've seen him in practice. I saw him live in practice, and he just impressed me above the shoulders. Like when he was 15 years old, he was probably a lot more mature than I was when I was 25, but that's another story. Yeah. So he's a little different guy, and I was just really impressed with it. I never forgot it. And then I watched his film, and I'm like, well, it shows. He knows where to be, when to be, and how to do it.
Yeah.
He'll end up being a coach. I would almost guarantee it.
Sure. I mean, hopefully he plays for a long time, and hopefully several of those years are at Auburn. I mean, what's his path to playing time look like from your point of view? I mean, how quick? I mean, you say it's mental, physically, like probably needs to gain a few pounds, and he's got plenty of time to do that before he steps foot on campus. But is this a guy that can play early, or is this a guy like, hey, we need you in an SEC weight room for 2 years before you're ready to go?
I think he can play very early because the spot he's going to try to play is impossible to begin with. There's nobody that can truly play it because playing nickel, you don't know who's going to line up in front of you. You're guessing. Right. Offense always has the advantage. So they're going to blitz him. They'll use him in zone. He'll be a kid that'll pick up the scheme a lot faster than most guys. So it's just going to be how they want to do it. If they want to play a gazillion reps a man, you're going to see more of a true strong safety like Eric Winters or something play more. In a run situation, I want him in the game because he'll figure it out. He takes the right angles. He doesn't get fooled, and he's fine. But it depends on what they're going to do. I think him and Winters at that spot in a 2-year window, I mean, if you're Auburn, you really can't do better because they complement one another so well.
It's a great point. It's a great point.
You have to be able to do that year to year. Who'd you get last year? Do we have enough to compete with Bama and Georgia? That's always the metric for Auburn. And the answer is yes right here.
Yeah. If you had to compare him to the guys who were in Auburn's class at linebacker, I mean, until a few weeks ago with Jermichael Garrett and Shadarius Tootle, throw Adam in there. How would you rank those three guys specifically?
Oh, wow. They are all totally different from each other. J. Mike was the most just raw, I'm going to run to the ball and figure it out guy. He would do everything wrong and make a play in the backfield. Tootle was the upside guy. Like his frame was insane, but he played against really bad competition and dominated like he should, but he still needed a lot of work. The one in between is Adam because he's not the biggest guy. He's pretty darn athletic, but he's by far the most far along in terms of understanding scheme and where to be. Like, I think it's not even in competition with the other two. So that's why he's probably the most likely to play. Linebacker now is almost impossible with the RPO game anyway. So they can probably bounce him, make him the nickel or the dime linebacker on 3rd and 11 in a year 2 or year 3. He'll be the one linebacker on the field. And then on 1st and 10, you play him. And like, he can handle more playbook stuff than most kids. So I like him the best of the three for that reason, because he's a modern player.
Yeah, I love that you labeled playing that position as impossible, because it's ridiculous when you were the only linebacker in the middle. I mean, so much comes your way and you've got to worry about like, okay, can they run it? Or, okay, there's a chance some plays I'm going to have to cover the running back out of the backfield who's going to be faster than me. Oh, or if this happens, I may have to get this tight end if he crosses the formation, which, he's significantly larger than me. Or, oh my goodness, all the quarterbacks seem to be super athletic now, and I may have to run him down if it's 3rd and 6, and a quick scramble could get a first down. There's so much that lone dime linebacker has to deal with, where you've got to be smart mentally, no question about it, but you've got to be a physical freak or you're just going to get bodied every single time. Well,
it's that way in the SEC, everybody's got to be really athletic or you get exposed. But you're adding on the playbook aspect of it because of what you said about the quarterback. Think about this. When they go to Arkansas, that'll be one of the quote unquote lower ranked teams they play in the SEC, but that quarterback's going to get a chance to play in the NFL. Like
that offense moved the ball last year.
Yeah.
Jalen Green with Bobby Petrino, like that offense was not a bad offense.
No. And they'll have Petrino back in Green. You have guys like that every year in the Southeastern Conference that are quote unquote, again, middle of the pack. And that's your lesser opponent. So you've got to have super athletes. That's why you're taking guys that are a little undersized or else you have no chance.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. So yeah, we think highly of Adam. I know some places have him as a 3-star. I don't think you should care. This is me telling you, I think Brian will agree. Don't care about that. This guy's a player. And I think Auburn got a pretty good linebacker in their class. What's next for Auburn? And also a few lines just dropped. I'll mention them just a second with this FanDuel read, but I want to get your thoughts. I'm a little surprised by him, Brian. Let's jump into that as well. Next, right here on Locked On Auburn. Today's show brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. FanDuel is America's #1 sports book. They've got lines all over the place for the Auburn Tigers. I mention it all the time. Baylor, Auburn, a 2.5-point favorite over Baylor, but they have Georgia and Alabama lines now. Auburn getting 6.5 when they host Georgia, getting 5.5 when they host Alabama. And also you can bet on Auburn as far as how many wins they'll get. If you think they're going to get 10 or more regular season wins, you can get that at plus 310. You can get 9 or more regular season wins at plus 135. So head over to FanDuel. And if you're new to FanDuel, new customers, you can bet just $5. You get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. Open the FanDuel app today or visit FanDuel.com to get started. Brian Smith, host of The Portal, here with you. Thank you for making Locked On Auburn your first listen. Make The Portal your second listen today. They wrap up Adam Balogoun-Ali's recruitment. Who else is on the radar? I mean, I know we can't really guess as far as when Jaquez Wilkes is going to commit, but I assume that'll be on your short list of guys who could potentially be next. Where else should Auburn go in your mind as far as getting that low-hanging fruit to get them back in this when you talk about those recruiting class rankings?
Well, I don't know if it's low-hanging fruit. It might be the most important guy left on the board, and that's Wilson Zaire. I mean, barring something unforeseen, that's Bama, Auburn, or Florida State, and nobody knows when he's going to announce either. I don't know what it is with Auburn and unknown dates, but they need to sign him. Offensive tackle, legacy, the whole nine. And I haven't heard anything in the last few days. I keep waiting. That's the most important guy to me because tackles are so important.
Did you see his quote where he was like, I grew up, I'm paraphrasing here, I grew up an Auburn fan, or like I've always like envisioned myself as an Auburn fan. The kid in me wants to pick Auburn, something like that. But I got to do what's best for me.
Oh, wow. Well, that's not a very positive outlook.
I don't know. I mean, I don't love it. So when you talk about him on Locked On Seminoles, how do you approach that recruitment from the FSU side?
I just tell it like it is. The time I interviewed him, I was in the football facility at Auburn. I mean, I was standing there, and I would say, "Hey, look, like this kid's going to Auburn." Like I remember I called you and told you, "Oh, they're going to get this kid."
Yeah.
And then he took his visits, and like once he visited Georgia and Bama, it just opened his eyes because there's a lot of other things out there. Then he visited Florida State too, and I think he's overwhelmed. Like remember, this isn't a kid from America. Like he's from Europe. So like college football to him is different. So he's a little overwhelmed, and maybe that's why he doesn't even want to set a date. And if that's the case, I'm all for it. But like
I don't know.
He's a dude.
I don't know.
He's gonna go. So I'm gonna go watch him play. So
yeah, like when his recruitment started, it was he's a 3-star, but he's like but his brother played at Auburn. Great, cool. And Auburn was hosting him, and it's like sweet. This seems like a layup. But then Bama and FSU and I think Georgia offered him too. Yeah. And it's like, oh, this isn't like just a 3-star, like we're taking you because your brother played here type recruitment. Like this is a real recruitment for an elite offensive tackle. And it happened pretty quick, like in the span of like 3 weeks. Like the perception of who he was as a player totally changed.
Yeah. He told me that on the visit to Auburn, like he just got those, and he's like, yeah, I've got to change things around because I just got Bama and Georgia. And I'm like, oh. And that I saw the photo of him on the Bama visit and all that stuff. And I'm like, that's real. Then like, if you actually take the visit, then you're interested. That's how that works.
Yeah.
So,
you got to listen to what they have to say for sure.
So
for sure
those will be the two, but I'm just going to go ahead and say it. Auburn's recruiting class starts on August 1st because I know you've talked about it some, and it puts me in a hold. Well, I'm sure a lot. A holding.
I've done 12 shows on it, Brian. It was last Wednesday.
It's this, and I don't know what they're going to do because I trust the NCAA about as much as I trust myself to dunk on Shaq. But this ability to hold these collectives accountable, they don't have the ability to do it. And if they don't, Auburn's got to pivot and completely change their offers to all these recruits.
Well, you're seeing all over. NACO's put out a big story yesterday that was kind of the talk of, I guess, the 24-hour news cycle about, how it essentially seems like nothing's really changed. Everybody's still paying what they want. And there's quotes in there about how even with these new rules, players are getting paid way more than they ever have been. Like it hasn't helped at all. And then you've got Auburn's AD, Cohen saying like that, hey, this isn't how it works. Like we're going to operate this way because that's what the rules say. It's like, well, everybody else is getting paid way more than normal, which lines up when Hugh Freeze is like, yeah, our offers are like way low, like way, way off from where they're getting offers from other places. And it's like, if you truly are like, got the conviction that what you're doing is the right thing, that's fine. But if it's proven to not be the right thing come August 1st, like I hope you're ready to pivot. It seems like there's a contingency plan ready, but I I don't know. The messaging has been interesting, and the strategy has been interesting for sure.
Well, let's use that word messaging for a second. How strong was the messaging from whatever you want to call this, the NIL clearinghouse? I don't trust them. The only way this works is if they not only hold somebody accountable, they have to do at least one of the following two things: take away postseason play, 0 chance, or take away scholarships, 0 chance from a school like Bama or Georgia. Because the TV networks will be on the phone in 0.1 nanoseconds saying you're costing us money. And that's why the schools are calling their bluff. That's what this is. And I'm not picking on Bama or Georgia.
You've got to know, if you're this clearinghouse and you say no to someone, you have to know that like there's a chance you're going to get sued.
I think they're to the point where they know that's just inevitable. So they're going to do the first wave. I think they'll just go at it hard the first wave, see what happens, and recalibrate. That's my guess. And there's no way to guess because it's never happened before. We don't have anything to go on. That's why I'm in a complete holding pattern, because
it's fascinating.
If they don't redline Texas Tech, that's the most important school in this by a bazillion miles.
Their booster that's paying all these kids is walking around Big 12 media days as you and I have this conversation. It's like they're not even, it's not even hidden. It's, oh yeah, Texas Tech's buying everyone. And it's like, if that's okay, then like Auburn needs to adjust. It's like, go back to buying people. It's what you've been doing successfully for the last two off seasons.
100%. Now in Texas Tech's defense, they have 0 chance otherwise. None. The recruits will not go there, the elite kids, unless they're getting bought. They have none.
Sure.
But they've openly,
or if they really like Patrick Mahomes.
Well, I mean, good for him. He's the exception to every rule. I mean, that's great.
Yeah.
And they still couldn't win big with Patrick Mahomes. So
that's true.
But anyway, they keep saying that it's not pay for play, but that guy being at, his name's Cody Campbell, that guy being at Big 12 Media Days.
It's wild to me.
Tells you how brazen that it really is. They do not care because they know they have no other shot.
Well, his messaging is he just wants to save college football. And it's like, no.
You want Texas Tech to win, and that's it.
You want Texas Tech to be the Yankees. Like, what do you need?
That's a great comparison.
How is that? How are those two things related at all?
They're not.
They're not. They're not. All right, I want to get your thoughts on some strengths and weaknesses of the roster, and then I also want to get your thoughts on a few of these lines that came out from FanDuel. That's next, right here on Locked On Auburn. Mentioned it early in the show, FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the Locked On Podcast Network. They've got some more lines up. I've talked about Auburn minus 2.5 against Baylor a ton. Don't want to spend any time on that. Georgia, a 6.5 point favorite over Auburn. That's lower than I would have guessed. I would have probably said 8.5 or 9.5 to say like, okay, can Auburn keep it within 10 is kind of where I thought this would be. And it can move, before October 11th, but I was pleasantly surprised to see that line.
I thought it was going to be 9.5.
Yeah.
I'm not a betting guy, but like I'm around it enough. I kind of know what the numbers are going to be. I wonder what the juice is for the over.
It's 50.5.
It's interesting. Like that game could be really interesting because Georgia, I don't trust their quarterback.
Sure.
But that could be a turnover-laden game too. So because of him, I think Auburn's defense is going to be better than what people think. That could be a 3-turnover game for Georgia, and they still win because I don't know if Auburn will be able to stop their run game. But then again, last year Georgia averaged 125 yards on the game of ground. That's pretty sad by Georgia standards. So
yeah. And then the other line, which this game feels like an eternity from now, November 29th, when Auburn hosts this year's Iron Bowl, 5.5 point spread, of course, in favor of Alabama, which that's another one where like I thought that would have been a little bit higher. I'm not gonna lie to you.
7 to 8 is what I would have figured.
Yeah.
Somewhere in that range.
Yeah.
Well, I guess Auburn's home field gets a little bit of respect today. Maybe that's what it is. I'd be curious to see what like Caesars and Circus, some of those other ones have it at, but that's interesting.
Yeah. Usually pretty close. Yeah, and then there seems to be a big drop off with where you can bet how many games Auburn will win. So at 9 or more, it's at plus 135. At 8 or more, it's at minus 170. That's the biggest difference.
Wow. That
to me, and then 7 is minus 420. So like they're thinking Auburn's winning 8 is what that's telling me.
That's a crater in difference between 8 and 9 though. Like that's wow.
Yeah, and they've still got the over under at 7.5. So I mean, I guess that tracks, but
they think they know what Auburn's going to do. Apparently, like really know. That's interesting.
Yeah,
with so many transfer players, I'm glad they have a better feel on it than what I do. That's wild.
Yeah, that's super interesting. As far as strengths and weaknesses of this roster, I mean, you manage the roster, you oversee and discuss the roster management for all these major programs, and you and I talk on the phone every day, so you hear me talking about every position for Auburn a ton. But what do you think the strength of Auburn's roster is? Is it straightforward and you just look at receiver and defensive back and you're like, yeah, that checks out? Or do you think it's maybe one that a lot of people wouldn't say?
Those two are the low-hanging fruit that are easy because you got NFL guys on the outside. But I think the one that's probably at least a little bit undervalued is their offensive line. I was just looking at Phil Steele's magazine. They got Connor as the number 2 center. I don't know if he's that good yet, but he's pretty darn good.
I mean, that wouldn't surprise you, right? If at the end of the year you're like Connor Lew's a top 2 center in college football, that wouldn't be surprising.
No, he's a heck of a player. He's very focused, smart kid, and he's.
Does he hype up Chaplin? I haven't gotten his magazine yet.
I didn't look at the tackles yet. I just happened to see that one by accident. But
got it.
I think their O-line. How many lines in the SEC do you think are better than the Tigers?
I would say
got the left tackle, maybe them. Who else?
I mean, I think I've said Auburn has a top 6 O-line.
I think that's a conservative answer, though. Like, don't you? Is it possible?
It's just weird that no one else sees that or thinks it.
They got a lot of experience. They got a real left tackle. That changes things.
Mm-hmm.
Georgia is not Georgia until otherwise proven. My buddies around the Georgia program are not
interesting.
Nice things about the O-line.
Okay.
We want to see it now. Like they're to the point after last year.
Yeah.
Like how they lost to Notre Dame. Like they looked awful. And I get it, but it's still Georgia. There's a lot of talent on that roster. I figured that Kirby will figure that out. So I'm going to assume they're one of the 4.
Mm-hmm.
Bama, Georgia, Auburn, Texas, maybe. I would just assume it's because they recruit so well, but they lost that stud left tackle. But Auburn's at least in that conversation.
I think so too. And then it comes down to scheme. Like, does the scheme allow you to win consistently? To me, I think that's going to be it. And I also think the threat of the passing game is going to help the O-line, especially when it comes to the running part of the RPO, where like, I don't think, I don't think any of these running backs are as good as Jarquez Hunter, but I do think their situation of like where they'll be able to pick up yards might be easier for these guys than it was for Jarquez, because I think you have to respect the passing game more this year than you did the last few seasons.
I would love to know at the end of this season compared to the last, because Jarquez was very well respected around the league, how many times there was one less defender in the box with the same formation, because Auburn not going to really change much, but it's a different running back. I bet it's a bazillion times different. They're going to shade a safety towards Cam and say somebody else has to beat us, which that's how I would play it too.
Yeah, and you're going to play some defenses that, are afraid of Eric Singleton getting, I mean, there's talk of him getting, 2 attempts a game on the ground, which seems really high to me, but like, I think he's worthy of it. And especially if you want to kind of put more stress on, those edge defenders, like why not? Why not? And then, you got to worry about Malcolm Simmons, who can pop off at any moment. There's just a lot. Like Auburn, from a personnel standpoint, it asks you to do a lot defensively to account for everybody. Horatio Fields, you can't put any corner on him. You can't. You've got to put a guy who's like north of 5'10", or you're going to have an issue. You're going to have an issue covering him.
North of 6 foot, more than likely. He's good, and he's not even.
Well, not everybody has 6 foot corners, is kind of what I'm saying.
Well, those teams are going to get. Like, I know this sounds really ridiculous, but there will be a few teams that they play, and I'm not trying to pick on anybody. They're lower level, not SEC, where they're like, screw it. On this drive, we're going to throw some fades and some basic slants where our size and speed, it's not going to have anything to do with scheme. We just have better dudes. And if you've got a problem, and I get against Vandy or Arkansas, somebody's going to have an injury, and beyond their starters, like you get into those teams' backups, if any of those teams play Auburn with backup corners from play one,
yikes.
That can be 350 and up for Jackson Arnold. And it's just throwing basic, like he's not even gonna have to work because it'll be yak yardage.
Right.
They'll just murder him with athleticism and size.
Yeah.
That's why recruiting matters.
It is. It is. They got to fix this class. I think, like you said, it'll start on August 1st. We'll get a lot more answers because I think they're either Cohen's right or they're going to have to pivot. And they're going to have to pivot quickly. So,
they better have the plan already on the desk.
My understanding is that's taken care of, but we'll see. Brian Smith, how can people check out everything you've got going on?
Locked on the portal, doing all kinds of fun stuff regarding all the teams around college football. Put up Penn State today. Going to be doing Ole Miss in the morning. Just everything they got going on recruiting and what my expectations are for next season.
Yep. Hey, please like the video. Please subscribe, and we will see you next time. This has been Locked On Auburn.